I think it's a great and very important question. In terms of the next generation are the change makers of the future. So for them to understand what the role of the firm is in terms of the impact in society is critical. Now my experience is that they get it. Maybe you and I don't get it, but they actually come into business schools and I think businesses totally already getting that. Why is it important that they understand that the role of the firm is really critical? I think that's a good question. They really come in with a relatively critical view of business. To me, business has probably the most innovation power that is available if I would look globally in order to solve societal issues, including the SDGs. And therefore trying to shape the perception of the future change agents so that they can see the potential of business as a driver of innovation to solve societal issues. That is really key. From what I can see, they come in wanting to change the many things that are not going so well, using their own innovation with it. Often they turn it into entrepreneurial, social enterprise solutions, but if they can also bring their energy into existing business and use the innovation force of existing business, I think that's how we can drive the change that we need, and that's probably why it is so important. I think digitalization and disruption accelerates the need for responsible leadership and how a partnership with business can help business education to make sure that we actually educate what we intend, namely responsible leaders. Certainly living it rather than just hearing about it makes a big difference. What we do at Business School Lausanne is we start by actually measuring what it means to be a responsible leader. And we measure it according to the 3 dimensions, the action dimensions, if you want, of knowledge, which business schools do well in, skills, which I think you can acquire best in a job, so in partnership with an organization, and attitudes, which are most difficult to develop and often come as an end result of having learned something, applied it and practiced it in skills to eventually shift an attitude. And then what we do is we look at it in the 5 dimensions of responsible leadership. We call it stakeholder engagement or relations, ethics and values, self-awareness, system thinkings, and change and innovation. And we look at kind of where is a student at the beginning of his learning adventure with us, and where is he at the end? And we look at what an interaction in business, an internship, a project, a joint initiative does with business. And that then allows us to concretely measure what the benefits are. Because I think it's one thing to pledge for more partnerships, and it's another thing to be able to come back and say, hey, having students work in companies or having students hold stakeholder initiatives where business are a part of working with other stakeholders on societal solutions and so forth are effective ways of making them more responsible. And here is how we measure it. That's really important. Business leaders very clearly tell us what they expect. They want students that bring in the right attitude, that can communicate authentically, and that have the higher helicopter view and understand the bigger context of things. These are skills and competencies that you can partially only teach in class, and you best actually experience in practice. You need to get your hands dirty for it, hence the need for partnerships. And I'm going to point out 7 specific points of how we have embedded the SDGs and sustainability at large in our MBA program. First of all, and I think probably most dramatically for our students, is we hold 4 times a year a 1-week innovation week, which we call the Gap Frame Week. The Gap Frame is a methodology that we have developed whereby we translate the SDGs into what it means as national priorities. And we use that method in the Innovation Week to make sure that students can actually work with stakeholders, find their own personal relevance to the SDGs, and then come up with concrete, viable business solutions addressing the SDGs. They do that at least 4 times in a program, once looking at environmental issues, societal issues, governance issues, and economic issues, and really starting to learn both the thinking process, the engagement process with stakeholders, but also how to actually work through such innovation processes together. So that's probably the biggest example we have. We've got, otherwise let me run you through some other examples. We have a course called Solving Big Problems. It's an older course, it's 5 years old, that was developed to solve societal issues. And there we have got the SDGs embedded. What we use there is that we use kind of this outside-in perspective of saying, actually, if you don't start with the problems that are out there, don't even start to think about what you need to do as business. And we look at SDGs in terms of how do the SDGs fit into the 4 dimensions of sustainability. And we help students understand not only what the SDGs are, but also kind of we critically review what they are not. Or we ask them, like, what do you think is missing in the SDGs? What have we forgotten? And how do these global goals translate to a national priority, particularly in the Western world? And then once you would know for a specific country what the priorities are, how do they translate into real business opportunities? That's what happens in that course. We have a strategy course that we call Creating Sustainable Values that translates this outside-in perspective into how do you embed the SDGs into your business strategy. A beautiful course. We have a 10-month consulting project for students whereby they work in teams of 4 on strategic sustainability issues with companies. For the moment they're working with, I just mentioned this before, with Swisscom, IKEA, Holcim on how to embed specifically the SDGs into the core of the strategy. Really exciting. We've developed a new strategy methodology for that our students are prototyping with us and implementing it in a paid consulting project with these companies. What else do they do? They also co-develop new strategy tools with us. They prototype with us. We use them kind of in applied research to together with us develop new things. They mentor younger students in terms of helping them identify their purpose in life and how they want to where they want to make an impact and how they can make first steps to that. And that relates to my last point, which is their own career planning, which we've really translated. I think the SDGs made us aware that we need to look at careers in a very different way. So we help students to start with their long-term ambition in terms of what they would ideally like to do in life, and then help to translate it into the next first practical step, rather than blindly develop an ideal career plan that is more externally motivated, but maybe not so intrinsically fit with what they really want to do. So these are the 7 areas of what we do.